Started the recording.
Okay, start recording. Today we have a rich agenda. We have at least 7 items to discuss, and probably it will take a whole hour. So Misha today is our host, so I'll pass control to him.
Hey guys, we've got a pretty feature-rich agenda this morning. Thanks for joining. This is our weekly GraphQL community meeting. Do you want me to go over the agenda, or am I passing? All right, let me, I'm going to find the agenda again. Hang on a second. Okay. Today we've got some work on GraphQL APIs returning the rendered content. Yaroslav is going to show that. We've got some improvements on or thoughts around mutations in for changing account information. Thank you. And Alex is going to be showing that. We've got some discussion around only showing active categories in the GraphQL API. Artyom we'll talk about that one. Vitaliy was working on further improvements to the config APIs. I don't believe is joining today, so Alex did some reviews with him, so he's gonna discuss that item. I wanted to go through the story that we have about managing shipping methods on cart. We kind of put a little bit more details around that story this week, so I wanted to share that. And then we've got a story that has generated quite a bit of discussion, which is filtering categories. Wanted to kind of iron out some details and some confusion there. There's a couple different things to talk about, so we'll address that item. And then let's see, we've got more discussions on cart schema, kind of advancements on what we've been discussing internally, and wanted to share some thoughts around the schema and then the asynchronous cart mutations. So that I will pass control to Yaroslav to talk about our rendered content story.
Hey guys.
Yaroslav, you ready?
Yep, I'm ready. Just sharing my screen. I have worked on this request. So basically the idea is previously, if we request a description or short description from a product, we get just a raw value, so just HTML if it's there, or just a plain text. And it's okay for most cases, but in some cases we might have some directives inside of the rich content, for example, as for this product. So you cannot do it directly from the editor, but if you enable just plain text editor, you can insert block, widget, template or so here. And at the moment in the main line, if you request description or short description with similar approach, you'll just get the same value as you see here. But on the front end, if we use such block, it's just a random block from sample data, so looks not very well, but as you can see, it's rendered on the front end. So if you insert it somewhere in description or short description, it's rendered. And the request was about to have the same behavior in response of GraphQL requests. So if we request a description or short description or any other field that allowed to have a rich content, it should be rendered. So we use the same approach in the code that is used for front end, for templates generation. And currently we have a pull request for that. We have a pull request for product. We will have the similar pull request for category soon enough, because we need to perform some additional actions in category resolvers. And for example, if we put a request for bag, it's a product with ID 30, and you can see among the description, we can see a different sales block here. So we have all this content rendered, all this HTML, and not just the raw of this directive. So the same we have in the short description block. So we have sales block rendered here. And in that way, if you use PWA or you just want to have the description completely rendered on your site in the same way like on Magento storefront, you can use the GraphQL for that. So I have just replaced description and short description values, raw values with the rendered values. And the next idea is to do the same for categories. Thank you. If you have any question, let me know.
Yep. Actually, I have a question.
Yep.
First of all, it is incredibly awesome to have this content, not like a code, like a content. It's awesome. Now it works only for CMS blocks, if I'm right. What about widgets and, yeah, for example, widgets?
It should work with widgets as well. I haven't tested with widgets because I'm not sure if widgets are rendered in the same way on the storefront, we will have the same behavior in GraphQL response.
Okay.
I believe it should work because I use the same method as on the storefront, and if it renders this content different directives, because I haven't tested with widgets, but I believe it should work.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions from anyone on the phone?
So actually, I have one question. Yaroslav, did you have a chance to test use case when you do category query and then have children products and try to render description and show description from there?
No, I haven't. Do we use some particular resolvers for this purpose, for products in this case?
I think so. Most likely it should work, but I would use this use case as well. Maybe we can do that after.
Okay, I will test it as well. Thank you. Thank you for pointing me in. So.
Yeah, that's a good call out. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yaroslav. Our next order of business is to talk about the story around mutations for my account, where we allow the user to change their account information. And then Alex Lezun wanted to pass control to you, sir.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Yep, I'll share my screen then. This desktop. So I jumped into this ticket just yesterday. Here is it. So with my account, change account information. It's also related to another tickets, which is allow us to change the newsletter subscription. And we decided with Misha to do it in scope of one implementation because generally it's the same call. And I started yesterday with this part with changing account information. And generally I've even moved forward quite good, I guess. So I can just show my working example here, where I have a new mutation for customer update. And I have, it's an example where I transfer the data like first name and email. In this case, only those two. I just wanted to test that mutation works correctly. Generally, I didn't find any working examples. Magento code with the transfer and the parameters, I guess no. So in this case, I hope I did it correctly. And yeah, if you will just try it, so generally, that's my account in Magento backend. And yep, I authorized and received the beer token for this user. And yeah, I can just change the first name of the user, and yep, it will be updated here. Also in a customer account, the same with an email address. It also will be changed. So yep, that's how it works. A bit of code diving. I use the customer GraphQL module, which is already there. I added here the customer update mutation type. Currently have first name, last name, and email parameters. As I told, I just started yesterday, so I wanted to test it. And yep, inside the resolver, we have the customer authentication. So in case if the token is correct, and if customer is out, I mean, if the token is correct, you check it in another place, but here we check in if the user is logged in. And here you just get in the customer, set in the email, first name, and saving it. That's generally the point. Yeah, that's it for now. I'll proceed to work on it. If you have any questions, you're welcome.
So just a quick follow-up, maybe to implement the newsletter subscription field, you just add it to the same mutation in the schema, and then it should...
Yeah, correct. Just it's subscribed the same as the GET response, the GET request for the customer.
Cool. Perfect. So it should not be much work, right?
Yep, agree.
Awesome. It's good stuff. I'm glad we're making headway in the direction of mutations. This is great because it would allow a client to build out, more of all the possibilities in my account experience, right, on the front end. So that's great. Thank you.
Correct. Yep, you're welcome.
Cool. Okay. Now we want to move on to the next item, which was the discussion of what kind of categories we show on the front end around active categories, etc. So Artyom wanted to lead that discussion. Go ahead.
Yep. Actually, yesterday I found, yesterday and check it today. So current status, present time. I see on the front end. I can show you the desktop. Yep, right. So here is a query, and on the front end, I see whole categories. No matter, is it enable, disable, include in menu or so? I see all of them. Even even today. Yep, here workout. So even right now, I see all of them. I would say we need to show only active categories. That's the point.
Yeah, correct. So I wanted to expand on that a little bit. So I think there's another comment at the bottom, kind of asking whether this is really where we should be going. So just to frame the discussion, remember that GraphQL API is a storefront API, right? So anything that anything that a customer can see on front end should be able to be retrieved by this API. But we don't want to expose any sensitive or back-end information that only the admin should have access to, right? So in this case, inactive categories can be used by admin to perform certain back office functions, like create folders or categories for promotions, for different kinds of kind of admin functions, right? But we should not be exposing those hidden ones. The point is to hide them from the customer, right, or from the shopper. So we should not be, for that reason, we should not be exposing them or showing them via the GraphQL API. So the GraphQL API should only be returning active categories because they're already seen on the front end by the shopper. So that's okay, but should not be showing inactive ones.
Yep.
Cool. So the change itself should be pretty straightforward, right? It's just what is that, modifying a resolver? And you haven't had a chance to actually change it yet, right, Artyom?
No. I'm not working with GraphQL. I'm working with Venya team and PWA Studio.
I see. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it actually, the screenshot from the Venya theme showing the hidden promotions category, it kind of illustrates the point, right? It should not be showing up on storefront category.
Yep, so here it is: promotions, workout, and collections. shouldn't be here, but they're here.
Exactly. So one point of discussion maybe for the team is on the category, you can also toggle whether it's included in the menu or not. So
actually, yeah, sorry for interruption. This option included in the menu only influence on a main menu, but not in layered navigation with child categories. So in this case, if we even choose include in the menu no, this category will be in a layered navigator.
Yep. So yeah, exactly. So I wanted to make sure that everyone's clear there that setting should not necessarily affect whether GraphQL includes that category or not. So GraphQL should only listen to the enable disabled flag, but not the include in menu flag, right?
Yep.
So if you're that has implications on if you're the client and you're building your menu right from this API, then you have to you potentially need to pay attention to this field. And can someone remind me if we include this field today in our category schema? Does anyone know? Include in menu. So that's kind of a use case to think about, right? We want to make it easy to use this API to build a menu. So okay. So currently, it sounds like we returned the field already. Okay, cool. Thank you, Artyom.
Yep, no problem.
It's a valuable improvement, definitely. Okay, all right, let's move on here, guys. The next item that we have on the agenda is improvements of the store config story that Vitaliy was working on. And since he couldn't join us, we'll have Alex say a couple words about it.
Hi guys. So basically, this is the story which we discussed last time, and Vitaliy was presenting, giving demo for this task like last time, and we had some comments. Like one of fixes which was required was to have authorization done via token, and also we wanted to make sure that we don't pass store in URL. So it was fixed. Now store is passed via headers. And just to remind you that if you have some scope related entities and you want to pass store to resolver, it is automatically taken from headers, and store manager is initialized based on that value. So you don't have to process it yourself, and you don't have to add it to URL or to parameters. Just inject store manager into your resolver, and you can get active store view if you need it. The other point was to split it into multiple modules, and this was also done to improve modularity, because there were some modularity issues. And overall, pull request is ready to merge, but we have one test, web API functional test, which requires store config feature, and we actually don't have it working for web API tests at the moment. So it works for integration tests, but it doesn't work for web API tests, because in integration tests, it modifies application state, but it doesn't save the actual fixture to database. And in web API tests, it doesn't work because you make separate HTTP request, and if you, let's say, mock something, some state from your test, it will be different, basically thread, it will be different process, and it will not affect the actual Magento instance. So if you want to create some feature in web API tests, in this case, you need to store it to database. And Igor Melnikov from Magento is right now working on implementing this feature for web API functional tests, and after that, we should be able to merge this pull request. So, any questions for what Vitaliy did? Okay, so what's next?
All right, great, thank you. I'll share my screen next if you want to stop sharing. Yeah, next order of items is to discuss the story around managing the shipping methods on the cart. Share my screen. All right, so just wanted to quickly run through the story. We've added some details. So essentially, what the purpose here is that whenever a shopper checks out on the website, part of the steps, right, that you have to do is choose which shipping methods you prefer out of all of the available ones. So out of the box, so we've got things like flat rate shipping, we've got table rate shipping. And then you can have a number of live rates, right? Depending on who your carrier is, things like UPS, FedEx, USPS. This is here in the United States, right? You can have other ones in other parts of the world. So the story reads, as a developer, I need to set and manage the selected shipping method on cart to support basically my checkout activities, right? So the use cases that we've come up with here are render available shipping methods on storefront. This is in order to display to the customer what shipping methods are available. You need to present them with a choice, right? And this is normally based on the provided shipping address. Second use case is set and be able to modify the shipping methods on the cart. So setting a shipping method is effectively the customer selecting one, but then also once they have selected one, they should be able to change it to a different one in case they want to do that. Third use case is request the currently set shipping method on cart. So as you move throughout the checkout process and you have already selected your address, you should be able to quickly resolve kind of to a shipping what your currently set shipping address or shipping method is. And then the last requirement there is to cover everything with API functional tests. So as far as kind of high level what you need to provide versus what output you expect, in order to render the available shipping methods on storefront, what the customer needs to provide is either a filled out address, or if they're a registered customer that has several addresses on file already, you can just provide a stored address ID to the endpoint, right?
That's how it works in REST.
That's how it works in REST. Yeah, I think in REST we have a specific separate endpoint for requesting shipping methods by saved address ID. Okay, and the output should be the list of all the available shipping methods, right? And then to set the set a new address or modify the set address on the cart, what you need to provide is basically your selection, right? Your shipping carrier, your desired shipping carrier code, and shipping method by that carrier. And then the output would be still the same. It would be your currently created cart with just the modified shipping method on that cart. And then to request what's currently set as the shipping method, you simply can just provide, you can basically just grab that off the cart object, right? Because the cart object is already going to contain those fields. So that's just a very simple GraphQL request for the fields that you want from that object. So current cart is the input and the output is currently set shipping methods or method given that you've requested that field. So the kind of the next steps on the story are to figure out, for example, for this use case right here, in order to render available shipping methods, we need to decide on what is the minimum number of fields that need to be provided in order to get to request available shipping methods, right? So different carriers may request or may require different fields in order to return potential shipping methods. So this is kind of the next step to analyze the out-of-the-box shipping methods in Magento and figure out what is the minimum like common denominator, minimum number of fields that across all shipping methods that we need to provide for this endpoint to work for all of them, right? So if anyone on the call has expertise or is familiar with what those fields are potentially, then it could help out. That would be great. Otherwise, we'll need to basically dig around in the APIs for each carrier and figure out those fields.
And one more point for this story is that initially we planned to have unified APIs for customer and guest, and right now you can see that there is potentially some divergence here. Like you can request shipping methods by address, or you can request it by address ID for customer. And ideally, we should think how to unify it and do not have like different APIs. So most likely we should do this by full address all the time. But like if you guys have any concerns about this, we can discuss it. So at least I would prefer not to have different APIs for customer and guest. It will simplify client-side applications a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So any comments for use cases, or maybe something that we missed here? Any other functionality that you guys think would be required in order to work with shipping methods on the cart? All right, sounds like it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so let's move on to the next item. The next item here is to discuss the filtering of categories, and I'll just jump to that item if I remember correctly. All right. So this story, we've had several kind of rounds of questions about what already exists, what we want to build, etc. So just to clarify something, I think about the existing functionality as far as search criteria that's available in the service contracts. I guess we arrived at the conclusion that we do have currently search criteria available for categories, but
category list, so there's separate service for that.
Category list, that's right. Right, so to get a list of categories, you are able to provide a search criteria, right? Anyway, the question is what kinds of fields are available to filter by today, but apparently that's not very easy to find out, that list. So we've come up with several here and wanted to basically implement that. So Umar, I know you had you tried to pick up the story and had some questions around how to proceed in certain aspects. Do you want to kind of ask your questions here, and we can discuss as a group?
Yeah, thank you so much. So the first question is, if we go through the current query mechanism of fetching a category, we can only provide an ID, and then we can fetch the whole category tree for that ID. If we come to this issue, user should be able to filter the categories on the basis of name, SKU, or is anchor or something else, right? So my first question was, do we need to filter the collection of categories? I mean, for example, there is a category which is on level 2, whose name is, for example, men, and there is another category whose name is women. So if someone filters the category by like writing MEN, so do we need to load the list of categories? So the men and women should be on the same level, or do we need to specify the ID of the category, plus these filters will be only applied to the children for that category? Like if you have specified men, so, and it is on, for example, 4th level, and you are fetching a category which is on 2nd level and its name is like clothes. So if you are fetching clothes by providing ID, for example, 31, and it is getting the complete tree of clothes, and in some depth, it has a category whose name is men. So will it be loading only men and not other categories, or will this rule apply to the collection of categories?
So I can try to answer, I guess, first, and then we can discuss. So the point kind of the purpose of the story is to be able to provide some criteria and then get a list of matching categories back, right? So if we do that, then it seems like it makes sense to return not just one category like we do today. So today's endpoint has, you provide an ID, you get one category back, and then you can kind of pivot to see its children, to see its parents, potentially, et cetera, and work with that one category.
Yes.
Because this is kind of like a search, you expect multiple entities to come back. We have been discussing changing this endpoint to categories, plural.
Yeah, exactly.
And then providing, like what you were saying, some sort of filter, like we do for products, based off of certain fields, like name, like potentially level, like potentially, I may need to add parent here because I think that would be useful as well. And then be able to, get a search result effectively of categories, which will be, seems like an array would be the way to go.
Yeah, looks like it's going to be a category tree objects.
Oh, okay. I think so. If we are searching through a name and if someone has specified the level, so it means, for example, if someone specified men and in level he specified 2, so it means that, and he's using like operator in the search criteria. So it means that it should only load the second level categories, which contains the men as a like text in the name field.
Yeah, so it would be a logical and, right? Kind of like we do with products, I think.
Actually, we allow and we allow or as well.
Okay.
But we can think like what makes sense here.
Yeah, it seems like, so that is a query that you should be able to execute and get results back. So that's correct. As far as logical ands and ors, it should probably follow what we have with products. I think there's an implied and if you just list a bunch of criteria.
Yeah,
but
we will basically have to define new filters. So right now we have special type in GraphQL for filters like input type, and we will have to probably introduce similar filter for categories. And same, I don't know, do you want like sorting or something? That probably doesn't make sense.
we'll all need to think about that. That's a good point.
So I don't think we need like pagination. It doesn't really make sense to have pagination for categories. And sorting probably also. I'm not sure like if you want to have sorting, but filtering for sure.
Yeah. So we can discuss that. I know, for large stores, it may make sense to be able to paginate.
Yeah. In the same way, if he specifies some like only the name field, and then all the categories should appear, and in the results, we can like get the level of that category. Plus, if a user specifies the children field in the query, so the children of that can also be returned.
Yeah, so that's what I think that's what Alex was saying, is that in the results, you expect an array of what we call today category tree objects, which basically it's a category that you can expand to see its children, but the category itself should be the category that matches the criteria, but then the children I don't think should be filtered.
Yeah. So it is how I see this change right now. So what we have right now is you just provide ID, and in response you get the category which matches this ID, and basically all three under this category. And after we implement this task, we can specify search criteria and get basically multiple trees. So you will get, on top level, you will get categories which match search criteria, and under each category, you can potentially fetch the whole tree, like requesting additional children if you need to. So it looks like this is the way to go. Again, any comments, guys?
I think if we are loading like two entities, for example, just consider that there is a category on the level 2, and on the third level, who is the children of the second level category, right? If both of them contains, for example, ABC, and I am searching with a query ABC, so it will give me the result of the level 2 category plus level 3 category as well. So if I am including the children in the query as well, so in case of second, I am already getting the third category as a children, And in case of third, I am also getting the children. So you can see these things can overlap between the children of both.
Yeah, but it's probably fine because you're building like separate trees. So you are interested in specific categories which you get by search criteria, and then you can request like anything from that category. And tree is basically a property of specific category.
So we need to get the list of trees, no matter on which level it is. It only matters if we specify the level in input params in level field.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Cool. Let's see. I couldn't remember if there was any. Oh yeah. One more thing on this item that I wanted to discuss is I asked this in the channel yesterday, and I've got one or two responses. But basically, a filter for categories that is based on product SKUs. So the idea is that you provide to the filter, you say, product SKU X, and then in return you get all the categories that contain product X. And furthermore, in addition to that, if you provide a list of SKUs, then as a response you get a list of categories that contain all of those SKUs. That was just an idea that we came up with. We didn't really get a whole lot of kind of real world use cases for that functionality, but wanted to ask around to see if anybody can think of anything that this would be useful for.
I think this should be the part of products endpoint, right? So you can specify the SKU, and in the result field, you can specify the category. And while inputting the product SKU, you can also place the filter like equal operator or like operator. So if the SKU matches, then you can get the categories of that product. So I think it should be the endpoint of products, but not categories.
Yes. So you're right for the use case of providing one SKU. You're right. You can use the products query for that and just query the categories field. But for the use case of providing multiple SKUs, I don't think you'd be able to use that endpoint, because what you get in response is a list of products, right? And here you get a list of categories.
All right, so I don't think so it is very important in this case, because it doesn't make any sense right now, like inputting multiple SKUs and finding the categories in the real world.
Yeah, that's a good point though, that for one SKU doesn't make sense, but potentially. Okay, does anyone else have thoughts on?
Yeah, I suppose like taking into account extensible nature of GraphQL, we can always add new filters, we can always add new fields if we need to. So it shouldn't be a problem to add this in the future if we need to, like if we find some use cases. Okay.
Cool. If no one objects, then I'm going to go ahead and take this out, and we can add it later. What I did want to add here though is the ability to filter on parent ID. So if I wanted to, if I have this as a condition, then it would only return to me categories that have the same or the specified parent category. Does that make sense?
Sorry, can you explain it further?
Sure. So this is a filter for categories, right? So I can provide, I want to search for categories that have, for example, a certain name, but also if I provide a parent ID, then I only want those categories that have the specified category as their parent in the tree.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's basically a condition that you can provide to look for, I guess it would be sibling categories, right? That all roll up to the same parent if you wanted to.
Exactly.
So, cool. I'm gonna swap out one for the other. All right. Any other thoughts on this one from anyone? All right. Hopefully we unblocked you for now. We can take this into account. I made a note here. We can try to provide more guidance, but really your product and product filters are probably going to be your best reference point for implementing this. All right, so last item on the agenda, or maybe a couple, we have just some updates on determining the schema for the cart object, and I'll let Alex talk about that for a second. So I'm going to stop sharing. I suppose I should distinguish between the different Alexes on the call. So I'll call you guys Alex P and Alex L.
So now we're talking about schema for cart, right?
Yes.
So actually, I started discussion about this last meeting, and now we already have one initial proposal for basically initial draft for adding items to cart using GraphQL mutations. And I have posted the link in our GraphQL Slack channel, so anybody is welcome to join and review it. But I will just probably give an overview in my ID because it is just more convenient to view it here. So we discussed like all these items, so I will probably skip this section for now. And we also had a question about asynchronous server-side mutations. We'll probably get back to this after I give overview of proposed schema. So one of the main points was that we are going to have separate mutations for each product type and for each checkout step. And for now, you can see proposed schema for mutations for adding items to cart. And we can probably start from simple product. So what is proposed is to have, first of all, like wrappers for all inputs and all outputs, and this will allow for potential extension, deprecation, and basically the reason why it is important for input, for example, is that because by default we cannot extend the list of arguments or shrink the list of arguments from different modules. Like I don't think like Magento will help here. But if you define special type, we have schema stitching functionality, which allows to merge schemas from different modules, and in such way you can extend the list of arguments. Or I mean, you can extend the list of fields, but fields eventually become like arguments here. And we request cart ID in form of hash, and we also request array of cart items. So we always work with arrays here, even if there is no current use case, let's say for configurables. I'm not sure like how, at least I don't know such use case in UI. We have similar use cases for simple products when you go to customer account and want to add multiple products by SKU and specify quantity for each of them. So it can be supported by this mutation. So you basically provide a list of cart items, and each cart item is represented by, in case of simple product, SKU, quantity, and customizable options. So just to clarify how the decision was made, like what fields are required for input, you just imagine that you are a customer on product page and you want to add specific product to cart, and you just need to understand like what input is required from customer to add this product, and that's it. So first of all, like you need to know like what SKU you are adding, how much of this product you are adding. It's for because it's possible to have that's more quantity products, and then potentially you may need to specify customizable options if this current product has any. And custom options are represented as an array, so a product can have multiple custom options, like customizable options. And in this case, you need to specify ID of each option that is available for the product and selected value. So if customer basically goes through Dropdown and selects specific configurable option, custom option. So it can be Dropdown, it can be like text input, it can be any field, but eventually it should be possible to represent it as a string. So in this case, we ask like what custom option ID is and what value is. And in response, we should be able to get any data of the cart. So it's actually discouraged to fetch the whole cart object, but if you need specific data, you should be able to get it in response of the mutation. This cart object will be, cart type will be extended from different parts of the schema. So for example, we will eventually have here like shipping methods and payment methods and all information that is applicable to cart. But in scope of current investigation, we just have items, cart items. So we are adding cart items and we show how we can get cart items in response from the cart. So when we will be creating schema for, let's say, adding shipping methods or specifying shipping methods, we will also extend cart schema with ability to fetch selected shipping methods. So cart items are in like array of cart item interfaces, and for each item you can get ID of the item, you can get quantity. So it's basically like line item in the shopping cart. And you can get any data from the product associated with this cart item. So you can potentially dig down and get like anything you need from that product.
Images is a good example.
Yeah, like images, like product title, product URL, which you can basically use to render existing shopping experience. And separately, we will need to get prices. And one of options which we considered was to say that, okay, storefront application, like JavaScript application, for example, can take information about prices from product and then somehow calculate it based on discounts, based on quantity. But this is probably not the safest approach, because in this case, we will split price calculation logic between backend and storefront, so it's probably not the best option. And that's why, for now, this cart prices is very limited. It's not how it's supposed to be eventually. So eventually, you should be able to get any prices which are available for product, but these prices should be calculated for cart item. So you should be able to get like price information, and you should be able to get probably price information you can get from product interface, but subtotal, which is taken into account discounts, potentially it's taken into account quantity of the items added to like a specific product. So let's say if price of product is like $5, subtotal can be, let's say, 15 if you have 3 products of the same type added to the cart. So this item will be extended. And then we have like simple cart item itself, and it's implementation of cart item interface. So you can see that all product types will have these fields. But if cart item is representing, let's say, simple product, then you may also get customizable options. And why customizable options are not part of generic interface? Because they are not available for group products, for example. And that's why it's not relevant to put them into generic interface. So all product types may have custom cart item interfaces. So then you can get like customizable options. So it's an array, and potentially you can get all selections which customer made while adding simple product to cart. And here we can get like selected option ID, option label, then you can get like option type. So it can be drop-down, or it can be so it can be like multi-select. And you can also get a list of values. So values is an array because you can have multi-select, and in this case, you need to provide multiple selected option values. In case of drop-down, for example, it will be just array consisting of one item. And you can also get sort order to understand like how you should render, like what order should you use to render selected options. And same for value. So you can get value ID, value label, value price. I'm sorry, option value price, and again sort order because you may reorder that and you need to render it properly. we can also take a look at some other types. So this is the most complex one because it contains generic types here. But let's just go maybe like one by one. And quickly look, we have like 10 minutes left. Do we have anything else on the agenda? Or this is the last item?
This is the last item.
Okay, so I will use the last 10 minutes then. So we also have mutations for adding bundle products. And the idea is the same. We have like wrappers, but then there are some customizations, let's say here. So you have a bundle cart item, which in addition to SKU quantity and customizable options has bundle options. And bundle options basically represented. So in case of bundle product, you can have ID of the option, you can have a number of items added, and potentially you can have multi-select again for bundle. Like if you, usually it's probably select, but sometimes you may have multi-select. That's why value is an array here. And just as a reminder, so basically bundle product is when you have, for example, different kinds of RAM, different kinds of hard drives, etc., and you want to assemble your computer. So you can select, let's say, one of hard drives, or you can select, let's say, 2 different hard drives, and you can specify quantity for each of them, and the same like for RAM. You can select type of RAM you want, and it can have like different price potentially. So this is like the use case for bundle products. And in the output, so if you want to get cart information here, like as a response to mutation, or we will introduce separate query to get cart information. So again, you can get customizable options, and you can get selected bundle options. And selected bundle option can have like label, like is it like RAM? So it will basically be like RAM in this case. You can get type, so it will be, let's say, multi-select. And you can get like selected specific products which are selected for RAM. And again, you have sort order. And for every product which you select from this multi-select of different RAMs, you can get like quantity, you can get basically like title, which is label, and you can get price of selected item. And again, you can have sort order just for display purposes. So in configurable, it's similar to simple, but it has configurable options. And configurable options are just ID and value, because like it cannot be multi-select. So each configurable option combination basically is represented by simple product, but eventually you must have select in configurable. And in this case, you can say like what is configurable option ID and what is selected value. And value is int because it is also not arbitrary string, it is just specific option value. And when we display configurable products in cart, you can get also selected configurable options, again array, and for each option you can get option label, value label, and IDs of the options. So for the notable product, you can get the notable links in addition to what you can get from, set the notable links in addition to what you can set for simple product. And the notable links are represented by IDs. So it's just a list of IDs. Potentially, you can sell, you can have one downloadable product. It can have multiple files for download, and it's possible to set that each file is sold separately, but it will be like still like same downloadable product. And in this case, you might have multi-select, and that's why you need like array of selected links. Basically, you specify which files from this product you want to buy. And in most cases, you'll probably build just one item, but it's possible to have it like it's multiple items. And when we display the downloadable product items, we basically say links label. This is just a configurable way to say, let's say, loads. So, but I mean, you probably don't need to pay too much attention to it. And then you also specify specific links which customer selected. So it will be like link ID and label for display purposes. So that in shopping cart, you can specify which links were selected. Probably we also need to add prices here. Let's talk about this. Okay, so I will think about this later. And then we have gift cards. So for gift card, you have sender name, recipient name, gift card amount, you have message, and you have customizable options. And you can fetch same data back. Group products are very similar to simple products. And the only difference is that it doesn't support customizable options. And that's why we need custom card item input. And then simple we discussed, and virtual product has, it's basically same as simple. It doesn't have weight, but it doesn't affect interface that much. And the only reason we have it just as syntax sugar to make it clear that, let's say, if you have specific product type, you will have specific mutation for the product type. However, it's probably possible to, let's say, add virtual product using simple product mutation, and it will probably work in this case. So anything else? Do we miss anything? Oh, actually, I also wanted to get back to one item which is skipped. So we have a couple minutes. It's about asynchronous server-side implementation for mutations. And we actually had discussion regarding this internally, and here you can see some discussion, like meeting notes from the discussion. But so far, we believe that if you implement asynchronous server-side implementation, it will complicate developer experience for client-side developers, because you will have to, let's say, send request to add product to cart, and then you will get some operation ID in response, and you will have to poll server to get status like, is it done? Is it done? If it's done, like you just get response. And then you can get to some cases when, let's say, you add product on one step, you implement optimistic UI and assume that it was successful, but you don't get response. Then you go to the next step and you start selecting, let's say, shipping method, and then you receive response from previous step saying that, sorry, there was not enough quantity of the product, you cannot go next. And then like UI have to figure out like how to process this exceptional situation. So basically UI is becoming much more complex. And according to our current knowledge, this is not the most, just to clarify, maybe like the reasoning behind this asynchronous server-side implementation is just to improve performance and to prevent bottlenecks in case of, let's say, spikes from user side. That if you have spikes in activity on your site, you may get basically down. And if you implement asynchronous server-side implementation, we will just put all queries to queue, and then we just can process it like gradually. You will get deterioration on user experience, but it will not be like server down. And we believe that most of use cases should be fine without asynchronous separations, and only several like larger merchants may need this. And we agree that we can probably do asynchronous GraphQL implementation similar to what we did for REST. If you know that we have REST implementation for synchronous operations with the help of mostly Alexander Lizun, and we can potentially implement something similar on framework level for GraphQL in the future if we need to. And for now, we defer this implementation, and we are implementing it as like standard GraphQL synchronous server-side implementation. But just to remind, you can still do asynchronous queries from client. So yeah, basically, if you have any comments on this, feel free to reach out to me directly or write on GraphQL channel, and we'll be glad to hear from you. Well, this is from my side. Like any questions?
Thank you, Alex. We're actually out of time. So thanks a lot for participation. You can ask your questions in the chat, so let's continue discussion there.
This was our first full hour meeting, so thanks guys for for all the work that you've done that needed to be discussed. So very, very glad to have so much activity on this project. So thanks a lot, everybody. I'll see you guys next week. I'll see you guys on the chat.
See you next week.
Yep.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.